We know that at least the Republicans in Congress and the states are massively in favor of drug testing poor people that want federal benefits. Things commonly, referred to as welfare, like TANF and food stamps and unemployment benefits. Well, according to Huffington Post YouGov poll that was just recently taken, it's not just the poor people that the American people want to have drug tested. Now, Americans are, of course, massively in favor of drug testing poor people to get benefits. Okay, that's understandable. Okay, so you don't want people taking government money that are on drugs. That I can totally understand. I don't necessarily agree with it because, first of all, the costs, and second of all, it's more of a condemnation of the poor. You're trying to basically stigmatize the poor into saying, well, these poor people, they're obviously all on drugs, so we're going to have to drug test them all. So those are the reasons that I'm not in favor, but I'm in the minority. The American people feel definitely different, but the American people are also really, really consistent by saying that not only do we want people on welfare getting drug tested before we give them benefits, but we want our representatives also to be drug tested. Let's look at the polling that this HuffPost YouGov poll actually produced. Now, like I said, 64% of Americans want to drug test welfare recipients. 78% of Americans want to drug test Congress. Now that's really amazing. It's a 78% to 7% margin. More people want to drug test Congress than people on welfare. Now 62% of those polled, of that 78, said that they strongly favor drug testing for congressional lawmakers. Now that's compared to only 51% who said the same of welfare recipients. Like, yeah, we want to drug test people, but we want to drug test Congress more. I find that really amazing. And I actually love that. Of course, it's Republicans mostly that mainly push these measures. Okay, not a lot of Democrats are out there pushing to drug test people on welfare, people on any sort of government assistance. Mostly Republicans. In fact, the House of Representatives actually recently just passed a bill that would allow states to require people on food stamps to have to get drug tested in order to receive those food benefits. Now, Republican lawmakers also have pushed for drug testing of people seeking unemployment insurance, basically other welfare programs. So you put all those supposed welfare programs together, and Republicans want to drug test them all. Basically going on with the Republican belief that if you are poor, it's because you're a druggie. It's because you're injecting crack. Or I'm sorry, it's because you're smoking crack and injecting whatever. I don't know. Can you even inject crack? I don't know. I don't do drugs, so I'm not really sure if you could. Republicans want to drug test people for welfare. They're saying that if you want to do drugs, you're not going to do it on our dime, which, like I said, that's fine. Now, Democrats are generally against this, but they have brought it up that, hey, you know what? If we're going to drug test regular people, poor people, in order to get federal benefits, then maybe we should drug test other members of Congress because they're also getting federal benefits. They're also getting federal money. It seems only fair. And of course, Democrats, like I said, are the ones that brought it up. Now, how do the voters feel? Well, the voters, of course, when you look across party lines, the voters are all in favor of drug testing Congress. When you break it down by party, 88% of Republicans say, yes, drug test Congress. No, we don't trust you. We want to see your pee. 77% of Democrats also say, yes, drug test Congress. 75% of independents also agree. On this issue, the American people are incredibly consistent, with no surprise, especially when you have people like Trey Riddell. You remember Trey Raydell, right? The guy who just recently got busted for cocaine. This Tea Party freshman, Tea Party Republican. You had Steve Katz, of Republican from New York. Kip Smith, Republican from Georgia. Rob Watson, Republican from Rhode Island. And you wonder why a lot of Republicans, 88% of Republicans, want to drug test Congress. Because it's a lot of their own that are getting busted for drugs. Amazing, right? That's really kind of funny. A lot of these so-called conservatives. Now, it's not always conservatives, of course. There's Democrats that get caught with drugs too. I believe there was Jesse Jackson Jr. To be fair, I believe he was caught for drugs and no longer has his spot in Congress. So, to be fair, that's another example. And of course, that makes sense of why 77% of Democrats say, yes, drug test Congress. We don't want to pay our congressmen to go and snort coke. Makes sense. Oh, and another really high-profile case that has been making, of course, the news is from our friends up north in Canada. Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, the crack-smoking mayor. Yes. So that kind of media exposure as well kind of, I think, reinforces to the people that, hey, we've got a problem with our elected officials doing drugs on the job. And, it's not just doing drugs on the job. There's been reports of, remember during the shutdown, there have been reports from, congressional staffers that would come in and say, yeah, a lot of our representatives during the shutdown negotiations would reek of alcohol. So it's not just drugs that are the problem. Republican lawmakers, for the most part, they hate that idea. They do not like that idea. What do you mean you want to drug test us? We're not poor. What do you mean? No, that's a violation of my privacy. Yeah, but you're getting federal money, you dick. If you're getting federal money and you want to be consistent with your conservative values, then you would consent to a drug test. That's fair. No, a lot of Republicans don't do fair. But I will be fair. And I will point out that the Kansas state legislature, that is primarily Republican, they eagerly signed on to this idea. They said, hey, you know what? That is fair. If we're going to drug test our citizens in order to get federal benefits, then yes, we're going to get drug tested too. So that's fair. And so, hey, great. Great on the Kansas state legislature. And those Republicans there are actually being consistent. Republican lawmakers, not a popular idea when it comes to them. They're like, I don't want to get drug tested, most likely because they're doing drugs, right? And why is that? Why else are Republicans against this? Well, it's because the American people, once they find out their elected official is doing drugs, they are not merciful. They're ready to drop the hammer. 66% of Americans say that congressmen should be forced to resign for having even a small amount of cocaine. So Trey Raydell, the American people say, get the fuck out of office. Leave and stay gone. You have violated the public trust. And that makes sense. Now, 14% of people, probably some bleeding heart liberals, say that, no, well, we'll just let you serve out the rest of your term if you promise to be good. And then you can go. Liberals. Really, this shows that the American people, they don't want people that are in places of power and people that they look up to be smoking crack. And not only do Americans want to just drug test Congress, no. 72% of Americans say they support random drug testing for people in the military. Once again, that makes 100% sense. Definitely support it. Our fighting men and women shouldn't be on drugs. Okay? They could do that in their own time. Out of the military. But we kind of need you in good fighting condition. Makes sense. 87% of Americans support random drug testing for airline pilots. Once again, that's no shit, duh, makes sense. I'm in support of that. And this one's kind of funny. 71% of Americans say that they support random drug testing of professional athletes. All right, I could see that. I can see that. I don't think professional athletes are all that important, to be honest with you. Yes, cue the hate on Twitter, cue the hate on YouTube. I'm not a sports person, so I really don't give a crap. If Michael Jordan's doing crack, I don't give a shit. Sorry. If LeBron is doing, injecting cocaine into his eyeballs or something like that, I don't care. He's not in a position of power. But I can understand why a lot of Americans say that, well, we don't want those guys doing drugs too because they're role models. I don't see them as much as a role model, but like I said, some Americans do. So I suppose I can understand that. Am I not a merciful person? Am I not one of the most understanding people in the world? I think so. And look, I guess this whole thing has to come down to, it really comes down to a drug war mentality, at least in my opinion. Because Americans think drugs so bad. They're horrible, 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 right? Everything that the government has told us about drugs is true. Even though the government has actually used drugs for experiments. They've used LSD. They've used ecstasy, maybe. Not sure on the ecstasy one. But they've done experiments on drugs to try and use them for military purposes. The government's done that before. So, I mean, but the government has also put out a lot of anti-drug propaganda as well, especially when it comes to marijuana. See, those other drugs like cocaine and crack, those are obviously bad for you. It's been proven. But marijuana is actually a lot different. And I actually feel differently about this poll if it is marijuana. Like, if one of my congressmen wants to smoke a joint. Do I feel that they should be fired for that? No. It's kind of the same thing about people on welfare. Do I care if they smoke a joint once in a while? Not really. Now, before you jump all over me, it's really because of the health benefits. So I'm not as angry if they're smoking a joint, because there are health and wellness benefits to marijuana. So, I mean, there's that. I mean, a lot of disabled people that may have issues with depression and pain, marijuana will actually help them. So that's why I'm less against that, because, you've got people that are obviously getting federal money through disability that, could use medical marijuana. So that's why you really have to delve into some of the details. Like, I'm not going to blanket all drugs and say, well, if you're caught with anything, you get your benefits taken away. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Please leave a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and share with your friends. If you want to see more, go to our channel at youtube.com/TYTNation. And if you really want to support the show, support this channel, go to our fundraising campaign at www.patreon.com/TYTNation. The website is in the description below. Thank you guys, and keep watching.